situation where they're not able to get the diagnosis that they need.
All right, Gary, over to you. Gary.
Gary, do an intro.
We never do an intro for this.
Okay.
It's always a cold start. We do the stuff in the middle.
Well,
Okay.
hold on a minute. Do you still have the presentation up there?
Yes,
Okay.
this is a St. Louis Unix Users Group, 13 October 2021. Lee Lambert is presenting Snap Your Way Out of Dependency Hell. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you, Stan. If I can keep track of all the icons here, I'm gonna pain in the butt. Anyway, this whole thing started about 2 months ago, and I was in the process of rebuilding my workstation because the old one died. So I got everything up and running halfway decently, and then I realized that, well, to use my 3D printer, I had to have the program to create the printer. So I went looking for it. Well, I couldn't find it. Come to realize that if you've got some sort of specialized application, like I was using on a 3D printer, and you're dealing with a mainstream Linux distro, there's a significant chance that your app might not be included. In this case, I was looking for a program called Prusa Slicer. I could find it nowhere in any of the mainstream repos. I couldn't find it on the software search. I finally did, but they didn't have a version for the current version, 15.3. And so I tried to install it manually. All right, let's back up a second. Prusa Slicer is a program to create a 3D quote unquote program that is used to print an object. So to print an object, you have to have a 3D model created by a CAD program. You could do it in FreeCAD or AutoCAD or any of those things. And then you export an STL file, which is basically a 3D picture rendered of the item. And then you have to take that STL file and convert it to the printer program, which is called G-code. If you have, and G-code is just like assembly level language. It's a listing of anywhere from a couple hundred to a couple million steps to use the printer to actually create the object. To create that G-code, you have to slice the 3D model, STL, into layers. Each layer represents one layer of the object that is created on the printer. And that's where the name term slicer came from. There's bunches of out in the market, but Prusa is pretty much the mainstream one because that is created by Joseph Prusa over in Europe. And question?
Lee, you're the only host, so I can't control sound.
Hang on a sec. James is, well, that's interesting. What happened to his co-host?
You left.
James
then
is
came back.
co-host. Stan is co-host. All right, Stan, you and James got it now.
Thank you.
Certainly. All right, so I went to try to find a package. It wasn't in the normal repos. Searching for it, zipper SE Prusa. Nothing there, no matching items found. I looked in software.opensusi.org. I could not find a version in OpenSUSE. I tried a manual package. Let's take a look at the log here for a second. Crap, where'd that window go? You guys got the text window up there?
Yes. I see
Excellent,
it.
thank you. Okay, I couldn't find it, so I downloaded a copy. I found a Prusa slicer 238.rpm. When I installed it, I got an error message. It required libboost. Okay, so I tried to install libboost. Wouldn't install. I tried a different dependency. Tried another dependency. Install. Failed. You know, libboost. I could not install it because the version the package wanted was not the version on my system. But yet, I couldn't install a different version because it would not overwrite the one on my system. So that's the definition of dependency hell, which was a major pain in the butt. You know, I thought there was a chance of doing it, but it just didn't work.
Does it give a reason why it won't overwrite?
Because the version installed had about 20 other things dependent on it. So I couldn't remove it to replace it with a different version. Does that make sense? In other words, the version of libboost installed on my system with the initial install
Yeah.
was not 176 yada yada yada. It was a different version. And I couldn't remove it because there was already 20 things on my system that were depending on it.
Hey,
Yeah,
Lee,
But why
Yes.
can't you upgrade it?
Steve, before you ask your question, Lee, can you increase the font size on that?
Gary's pretty old.
What'd you say? Yeah.
Pick the bolds. That a lot of times that'll,
How about that?
Much
yeah,
better.
that's,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes, good.
Yeah, I prefer not to make it bold because then it won't kern the fonts because it's a fixed font. Anyway, this is the version that the Prusa program wanted. And I don't remember what was installed on my system, but they were not compatible. In other words, Prusa didn't like the one on the system, and the one on the system I could not remove because there were 20 other programs that were depending on it. So if I tried to rip out the one on the system, I'd have to rip out those other 20 programs, which would rip out another 50 executables, and it's called dependency hell.
Yeah.
So basically, there was no way to install it.
So.
Hey,
I mean,
Lee.
I've
Yes.
run into that before. You can't, the first thing is you can't upgrade it. So then you try to remove it, but why can't you upgrade it?
You'd
Because
have to ask the guy that wrote the operating system.
because the upgrade wasn't compatible with the 20 packages that were depending on the version that was installed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in the past, I fixed it with a symlink. If the version installed is newer than the one you need, you can create a symlink from the new version to that old version name and satisfy it. But in this case, the version Prusa wanted was newer than the version that was installed, which means I couldn't create a symlink because I would have had to uninstall everything depending on the version there to create a symlink from the newer package to it. Does that make sense? In other words, if the package I'm installing requires an older version of a library, there's only one package depending on it. There's only one dependency to that package, which is the program I'm installing, which means I can create a symlink with that name to the newer library and fix it. But
Yeah, right. I mean, and you hope that hopes that the thing you're trying to install won't really mind that the new library is newer.
right. But with 20 things on the system, depending on the installed version, I couldn't rename it. I couldn't replace it with a symlink to the newer version. Otherwise, I'd have to install, remove those 20 versions first. I guess if I wanted, if I was in the field with no connection, like one of your radar sites, Stanford, I could probably boot in a single user mode, without X running, and physically create a symlink from the new file to this older version, because no running program would be using it. Yeah, I could have tried that, but I had done that in the past on my other systems, and you're just asking for problems, because the next time you try to update, you break everything related to it.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, we just have to believe you that you couldn't and listen to you say how you did.
Basically.
Or at least that was too much work to upgrade.
Well, no, because this is my main workstation. And if I start messing with stuff like this, believe me, 6 months or a year down the road, I'm going to have to rebuild it because it's so messed up that I can't use it. Again, something like this might be an option if you're in the middle of nowhere with no internet connection and you've got to get the thing running for some reason. But on a main workstation that you use every day, it would not be a sane operation in my estimation. Anyway, there was also libboost file system, libboost thread, libboost locale. Most of it was related to libboost, except libboost, when I started playing with it, it was dependent on libc, which I am not going to play with, because I know darn well that 80% of the system uses whatever version of libc it was built with.
Yep.
Anyway,
Hey, Lee.
yeah.
Is it possible? I know I've done this in the past. I think it might have been on a Silicon graphics system. But when you have a library dependency like that, it seems to me on the old Silicon graphics, you could put it somewhere, bring the new one in, whether it was newer or older or, wrong color or whatever. And you could then tell the program to, when you get to libboost, go look over there, and it would do it. You could do it.
Yeah, but the problem with that here is I'm installing a system executable, and it is using libraries all over the place. If that were a separate program, you could, but basically that's what we're going to end up doing. And the way we're doing it is a heck of a lot cleaner than mucking with core dependencies on the system.
Oh yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, that just wasn't an option. You can see down here, I was actually playing with installing a version from Tumbleweed.
Yeah.
If anybody isn't familiar with SUSE, Tumbleweed is the bleeding edge. It's updated like every couple of weeks, and it's sort of like testing, the test bed, and that's where everything is tested and debugged before it's even considered for including in the stable release, which SUSE calls LEAP. So LEAP 15.3 is the current stable release. It's been around since last spring. And in the last 3 or 4 months, I've updated all my systems to 15.3 and haven't had a lick of problems until I did my main workstation here. I think it was in end of July, first part of August, because one of the drives died and the motherboard was having problems anyway. And so, I just went out and found actually found a good deal out at Micro Center. They had an i9 10-core CPU plus a motherboard and a cooler I got for like $500. Anyway, so the bottom line is I mucked around with this for a couple. I tried a couple different repos. I tried Tumbleweed. I tried some home repo. By the way, I would caution people against using any community provided builds. because 3 or 4 months down the road, a lot of times you're going to diverge. The community build doesn't get updated, your core OS gets updated, and all of a sudden you got a repo that's blowing up because its dependencies are no longer met. So that's the second aspect of dependency hell that you get into. And I do not recommend playing with anything, with anybody's personal build, a community build for any kind of production system. Because that's the second time you're going to have problems when you go trying to update it if you've already hacked it to get it running in the first place. Okay, I also try to force install of an old package, including the slicer, libboost, actually a glibc, and it just wasn't working. Libboost was the core dependency that was breaking, and it was a major dependency for everything else on the system. Again, there was at least 20 other packages depending on it, so it was not possible to fake it in any way that I could come up with. All right, any questions at this point? I even went out to RPM find to find one, but then other dependency failed, and I mean it was just a blooming nightmare.
This is Stan.
Yes, sir.
I haven't written any code this
Millennium.
millennium. That's the word I'm looking for. And I do see a lot of things in the repos when I look at the things and they talk about dependencies, and they often say equal to or greater than such and such, which means that they're allowing for down the road when something new comes along, it'll take that. Is it that hard to write that, or is it just some of these developers don't write it that way, or they don't know how, or what's your opinion on that?
Actually, I never really thought about that, but one scenario I can envision is, in many cases, it's not the library dependency, but the name of the library that breaks. If you've got an app that did not get upgraded for some reason, and all of a sudden it's looking for a library that is not the name of the current one installed, that's the version where you can fix it by doing a symlink from the current one to the version name that your program is expecting. That's easy to do. I've done it all the time in the past, because if you have a package that wants a version older than what you have, yes, you can many times create a symlink in the lib64 path or wherever it is from that new version with all the, like here's Prusa Slicer 2.3.3. Yada yada yada.
Right.
And if this was older than the one installed on the system, then you could create a symlink from Prusa Slicer 2.3.3.0.2 or 2.4 to 2.3.3-1.3, and it'll work. That make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and
you've done that. I've actually in some binaries, I've actually gone in with a hex editor and changed stuff. That's really fun.
Yeah. But like I say, in this case, it's a mainstream app. It's my main workstation, and the library that it wanted was newer than what was installed on the system. And I did not want to try with replacing, anyway, it just got the nightmare. I guess there's some possibility it would have worked, but I remembered, doing Snap before, and I looked it up, and it was a 5-minute install. Okay, anybody else?
Do you have any idea what a libboost does, or do you even care?
I don't care, because there was, if you look up here, there was libboost, something to do with thread management, locale, file system, chrono, boost, license manager. To me, it looked like something built, some integral part of the window manager or something. Or if anyone wants to look it up real quick and let us know, you can.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? So I remembered hearing about this a long time ago. There was more than one flavor. I happened to remember and ended up in the right place the first time. I know there are other versions. I call it a static application. Basically, you take the binary you need along with every dependency it has and bundle that in a package.
Doesn't
And
it
that's
get
all.
kind of big?
Not really. Because when you get right down to it, most of your dependencies are A, they're binary, and B, you may have 10 or 15, but you're probably looking at a couple meg over the application itself.
Yeah,
It-
okay. Well, that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it's not like you're including a whole system. In fact,
And a lot of them are probably
Yeah.
stripped.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. But so the static application is basically the executable, including all of its dependencies. You could kind of think of it like a mini container.
So you're saying go back and get the static RPM instead of the dynamic RPM?
Well, except that most RPMs aren't available in static form.
Right, continue.
Right. I've never seen an RPM built with all of the packages because it's designed to be installed on a running system. So it assumes all the compatible versions are already installed. Otherwise, you can add a few pieces. But basically, the whole idea of a static application is to take all those dependencies, wrap them in one bundle. We'll talk about here more in a minute. But then you do have to have something to run that bundle. And so there is a system level daemon that runs all the bundles. But other than that, everything you install is in your own user directory. And that's how I came up with the snap. You can look it up Wikipedia. I think Stan had some of the Wikipedia notes on the email he sent out today. It's a self-contained application running in a sandbox with mediated access to the host system. The app plus all his dependencies are in a single file using squashfs, has the extension .snap, and that's all you need. And luckily, or not luckily for me, but Snap is designed to support any class of Linux application from character-based to desktop. Although the vast majority of them are desktop style applications, because when you take an app and run on X Windows, that's where you get the multiple tens, if not, many, 30, 40, 50 different dependencies that you have to meet. The site is snapcraft.io. Let's see, do I have my browser window? Now they call it an app store. A lot of the stuff they have is what I would consider core apps, GIMP. I've never seen GIMP that didn't come with a distro. I've never seen 1Password that didn't come with a distro. Spotify, I don't know anything about music, but there's literally hundreds of them here. Visual Studio Code, that might be interesting. If you want to run Visual Studio, you install a snap, it won't touch, you don't let it touch your system.
That's the only way to install Microsoft.
No kidding. VLC, I could see an advantage of doing VLC as a snap with all of the encoders and decoders involved.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because will it allow you, because all the time I'm saying, oh, this new media has been released with some new coder, so you have to upgrade your encoder, so you have to upgrade your browser, so you have to upgrade your OS, so you have to upgrade your hardware. And if you could just skip all that and install a new VLC snap on an old OS, well, anyway, continue with your lecture.
Good question, Stanford. I mean, I've never tried it because I always run, you know, the step behind current on my main workstation, because you know, I use it to talk to everything, and I want to stay halfway complete or halfway current.
Yeah, but you're about ready to do that, right? You're about ready to put libboost in a snap so that you can leave the old libboost in place.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's what I'm saying too. It's like, okay, I want to run a new browser in the snap so I can leave my old OS in place.
Mhm. But you know, here's some neat, you know, Android Studio, Eclipse, Sublime Text. Some people like that. I kind of don't, but PHP Storm is an IDE for PHP that lets you remote debug. I played with that before. You know, there's a lot of snap stuff out there that, you know, would be a fairly simple install. You know, snap install Atom, snap install Sublime Text, and then you have it in your executable tree. All kinds of games too, which, you know, if you're into that kind of thing, all kinds of social stuff too, if you're into that stuff.
For the most part, this is Stan. For the most part, I haven't really seen anything here that wasn't in the repositories.
Good point. So there's probably two advantages of using Snap. One of them is my scenario where I was installing something that was not readily available. But if you wanted to install something and be able to throw it away easily, like Beekeeper, you install a Snap and all you have to do is delete one file or delete one directory and it's gone. The other advantage is anything you install with a Snap is guaranteed not to touch your running system.
So it doesn't contaminate the rest
Right.
of your system.
Right.
And you don't want, okay.
And most importantly, you can update the system without worrying about breaking the app.
Yeah.
It's actually a good, it's really sounded like a really good idea. It kind of disconnects that in there.
Yeah, it totally isolates it.
Without going to the full extent of a VM or a container.
Yep. Although since the container really can't talk to X, or at least I imagine it can, but I've never seen one. The fact that a Snap can interface with your window manager, it would be something you can't do in a container, and it would be a lot harder in a VM because you'd be dealing with an isolated environment. VirtualBox does it fairly well, but then you got, you know, at least 5 or 10 meg to build a whole nother OS in a VM, whereas with a Snap, all it does is isolate the dependencies in a single squash FS, and then it has a daemon that interfaces to the external interfaces of the host you're running on.
Now, do you have to make your own Snap, or was it pre-built for you? Do you go out and find one that you needed?
Everything I've ever used has been pre-built. Building any kind of packages is really 2 or 3 levels deeper than anything I want to get into.
Because the time when this would have been useful for me, I believe there probably is a rather unusual package. It probably is not a pre-built one before. So.
Yep. So as I was saying, the first thing you have to do is install a daemon. God damn it. Add repo. In this case, on the SUSE world, is called Snappy. OpenSUSE Leap 15.3 Sorry, I got a typo here. I use the 15.3 version. Snappy is a package you install. It gives you the snap daemon. Import the key. So when you do an update, it sees the key. Zipper install snapd. That's all there is to it. In fact, I should also have the snap install here. This is a log that I did, that I was doing. Didn't actually do a sudo, because I usually do things as root. Add repo with a refresh. Here's the 15.3 distro, snappy. So I add the distro, install it, enable it, start it, and install Prusa Slicer.
Looks so simple. No. Why did by putting the snap layer in between, how come this install of Prusa Slicer didn't still complain that you had all these dependencies?
Because all of the dependencies he wanted are inside of the snap package.
Okay.
You know, that's one of the primary advantages of a snap. When you install a snap, that package comes with everything.
So the snap is not only a daemon, but it's all of them. It's all the updated libraries that you need.
No, hang on. There's two parts to it. The daemon is what runs a snap package. Get some window up here. I installed the daemon here. The daemon is a system level tool that enables you to run a snap package. The daemon interfaces to your host. It uses all the host libraries for that version. And it provides an interface so that whatever app you're running in the snap package talks to the daemon, which then talks to the host, exactly like a Docker container.
Lee, we're seeing your slides and not your terminal, if you meant to show the terminal.
No, I went back here because
Okay.
I'm getting ready to go to a different terminal here. Here's the daemon running. Active running, it is enabled. I guess I didn't turn my machine on until 12:43 today. PID. Sometimes you have to worry about app armor, but that's beyond the scope of what we're doing here. You may have to add that module in app armor so that Snap can do all the things he needs to do. That's it. The daemon's running. In my home directory, I have a Snap directory. In that Snap directory, I have Prusa Slicer. There are a bunch of common files. There is a directory 29. Oh, that's interesting.
Everything looks empty.
It sure does. Why the hell is that? Anyway.
Maybe it's just a flag.
Oh, I know what it is. I did install it as root because it actually installed it here at the root level. That was something I didn't have to do. Has been, let's see. Has all GTK stuff, X11. Okay. So again, in this case, I actually installed it as root because that's, when I did that a couple months ago, I really didn't care one way or the other, but you don't have to. If you want to install it as a user, you can. And let's see, what else do I have on here?
I'm trying to do a snap install while we're talking, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm installing 1Password here.
What is 1Password?
It's a password vault.
Oh, okay.
Stan, I think you use it, don't you?
No, I use KeyPass.
KeyPass,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, KeyPass is pretty handy. Hey, Stan,
Yes,
does
sir.
KeyPass have the ability to autofill your username and password on an application?
I think it does. I've never used it though, because it's depends on the site, and so it's kind of iffy, like most of them, I think. Oh. But then too, there's 3 different versions of KeyPass actually. So it depends on
Actually, I
which
was
one you
reading the
got.
other day, I think there must be a lot more than 3. I use KeyPass too.
Yeah, there's KeyPass, KeyPass 2, there's KeyPass X, and KeyPass X C something, another CR, I think it is.
It worked.
Yep. And it's installed 1Password here.
So what I understand, like one of the downsides of Snap is on account of the Squash FS issue, that every single Snap you install gets mounted as a block device. Like if you check, once it's installed, if you check like mounts or DF or something like that, you're going to see every single Snap you've got as a block device. Yeah. There's your 1Pass just installed right now. So I've kind of been comparing a little bit or reading a little bit about the difference between flat packs and snaps, and kind of where they come from. You know, I mean, flat packs is a Red Hat thing, and snaps are generally an Ubuntu thing. So I thought that was interesting that you chose the snaps for SUSE. It's kind of RPM based, and somehow flat packs, I was kind of, they don't do that the same way, as far as they don't, you won't see those mounted as a block device like snap packs. And I was kind of how that works, and if they need a daemon or not to run for them or not. But yeah, I've kind of been an Ubuntu guy for years, and now real quick I'm becoming a strong Red Hat guy.
My condolences.
This is Stan. As I understand it, the flat packs are more open source, and the Snap stuff is a lot of proprietary stuff in there. It's source code that completely controlled by Ubuntu, and it ties everything to their Snap store. One of the articles I posted, or comments I on Discuss earlier today, referenced a coming thing where they were going to try and develop a non-Ubuntu source for these Snap packages. One of the big concerns that the Linux Mint people had was the fact that that Ubuntu had started using snaps without telling people a couple of years ago. And they were a little upset with that. Their policy is that, you know, your user has to have the full capability of knowing what it has been installed and can be installed and make a choice.
Okay. All right, so installing Prusa, enable and start the daemon we talked about. Remember that there is a path you need to add to profile. You can either source Etsy profile or just log out and log in again. Snap find Prusa, version 2.3.3. When you want it, hit the window key, type PRU, Prusa slicer, and you've got it.
So Lee, is the reason you decided to choose snaps is because you found a snap for the application you needed, and that would
Right.
solve your problem? Is that what made you choose it?
Yes, definitely.
Ooh, a shotgun barrel.
That's what the slicer does. When you slice it, you see a bunch of layers here, and there's a slider here. You can start and just go down to layer 1, which is right there. And then you start building up, you know, every one of these is a layer here. You see it's 33 layers. You know, you can look at any way you want. And when you do an export, you save that G code onto a thumb drive, basically, that you plug into the printer. And then you open that G code file on the printer, and the printer will start from layer 0 down here and just build up every layer at a time. Printing something like this takes about an hour and a half. This is actually a tube cap for one of our drones.
It's 3D printing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Duh.
Yeah, we were doing that back at Mac in the 90s.
Well, you didn't have a printer sitting on the bench in your lab. I'll tell you that. At home.
No, it was a little bigger than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, it had a vat of epoxy in it and a laser that would harden.
Right.
You know, it would make a pass around and it would harden a layer, maybe, I don't know, a few thousandths of an inch thick.
Mm-hmm.
And it go around again and go around again.
Yeah, and nowadays they do it with powdered titanium.
Yeah.
And the laser will fuse the titanium, and you can actually build a titanium part in a 3D printer.
Pretty cool.
Most of all kinds of other metals. They start with a powdered metal. They use a laser to liquefy the metal and build join the object together on that layer, and then drop the object down a millimeter or half a millimeter, whatever. Laser another layer, drop it down again. Laser another layer, drop it down again. Laser another layer.
Yeah, that's every 3D printer I've ever seen work that way. Just, you know, it depends what media you're working with.
Yeah, except on a 3D printer like I use, you start from nothing, which is the base on the printer, and you add a layer as the head moves up. So Z is positive. You start at 0 and Z goes up to whatever this is, 20, like 3 centimeters or something like that. Which is one of the reasons I like it, is because I don't have to think in negative. I start at 0 and everything is positive. But you only get that with a, in this case, shit, I forget what the name of it is. Anyway, I've got a 3D printer I built myself about 5 years ago.
Did you 3D print that Egyptian queen you had there a second ago?
What I have for
Well, it appears, Lee, that it installed.
yeah, I mean it
runs.
works.
Yeah.
I have a question. Where did it install it?
In this case, since I had installed it as root, where the hell's my show window? It's under root. There's Prusa Slicer.
Yeah, it installed it, but I have no idea where it installed it. It never said.
Read my lips.
/snap.
I'm not installing that. I'm installing something else. Where
Well,
did
then, if you install a Snap package, it installs the Snap directory on your system. If you install it as root, it is in /snap on your at root, or there is a Snap directory under your home directory. That's interesting. It installs in both places.
No, I can't find a Snap directory.
And Lee, you're saying if you install it as a user, it goes in home user snap. If you install it as root, it doesn't go in /root/snap. It goes in /snap,
Right, he means the root directory, not the root user.
not the root home direct, not root's home directory, but the / directory.
That's the root file system. Yeah.
That's where the daemon goes. And apparently it is installed in both places, because I just installed 1Password, and it made a directory under my home directory. I'm assuming this is for local settings or something like that, because there isn't much in here. And then there's
Okay.
also a directory or some stuff under /snap.
Yeah.
1Password here and Prusa Slicer, which I installed on September 24. All right, anybody else? There may be some other issues. It might be worth looking at Snap Pack, but for the couple things I'm doing in Snap, it's not mainstream. I had to have a Prusa Slicer because I had to print parts that weekend, and Snap was the simplest way to do it.
And it's the one you found.
Yes, true. That's another major component of the decision.
Yes.
All right, there's a wiki page, Snapcraft, and other than that, I'm good.
Wow, thank you.
My
That
pleasure.
was informative.
Good job.
Excellent. No other questions?
Maybe I put him to sleep.
I think so.
Well, thank you.
Just
That was
hang
Lee
on.
Lammert.
Nobody's out here.
He is a longtime member of our group. He's the treasurer of our group, and he frequent speaker. He's also the chief scientist for Omnitech Corporation, and he lives in the Bat Cave, but we won't tell you what his secret identity is. Thanks again, Lee. That was a tour de force.
Cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Lee.
For those of you who joined us in progress, yeah, we probably went a little longer on that than we originally thought, but yeah, it seemed like we were on a roll there. So we'll still get to Gitso and hear all of its glory.
We started late too.
We did.
We did.
Yeah. But anyway,
did start
what
late.
we usually do with this meeting is we call it the Oreo cookie version of a meeting. We do the announcements, the introductions, and a general Q&A in the middle of the meeting after we do the beginning basic or tutorial session. That was Lee doing the basic tutorial session, and the topic was Snap. And now we're going to do the announcements. So let's see, announcements. Anything that anybody can think of? Stan, you got any?
Yes, coming up this weekend. I think it's the 23rd and 24th, whenever that falls on the calendar. IT Pro TV is having what they call a free viewing weekend. You can sign in with your password or your email address and create an account. You do not have to pay any money, but you can just watch for the weekend. And for 48 hours, they're going to have free videos, and they're all security oriented. It's up on our calendar. I think I even posted it in Discuss about a week or so ago. And the certified ethical hacker videos, I think it's a total up to about 41 hours. So if you want to start about midnight Saturday morning, you just might stay awake long enough to watch the whole thing.
Not
And
bloody likely.
yeah, and they have a bunch of others that are security oriented. I forget the exact titles. That one is the thing of primary interest. So gives you an idea of what quality their presentations are. And they usually break it down into segments of 20 to 35 minutes, depending on each topic. And they do a lot of training. These are, for the most part, these are training videos for somebody that wants to get a certification for these particular topics. Another thing that they do, they have what they call technical skills things, where they present stuff for your learning that's not necessarily something that you can get a certification for. They've got some really good Linux-oriented presentations, beginning stuff. They've got also on becoming a system administrator, becoming a server administrator, becoming a power user for Linux. And each one of those are, I don't know, anywhere from 30 to 45 hours long. I think I forget exactly how long each of those are, but it's very good material, stuff I'd never seen any place before. I'm a annual subscriber and have been for a number of years, and I promote them because I really enjoy most of what they present. There's a couple of the guys in there that'll put you to sleep, but the rest of them are pretty good. But it's free this weekend. And even what they charge for a month's subscription is less than most of the books that you would wind up buying on a particular topic. They cover all kinds of stuff, all platform, Windows, Apple, Linux, and they have quite a repertoire of training. Let's see. What is it? 9 days from now, we're going to have the St. Louis Linux user group. Any idea what's going to be presented then, Gary?
Nope, not yet. We may, and I will accept feedback at this point if anyone wants to comment on it. Have a redo of the presentation from last month's St. Louis SLUUG meeting. Last month, the presentation was by Frank Seiler, and we had a technical problem. We were using Gitso, and it about 1 out of 6 people who joined the meeting wound up getting isolated in a separate group where they couldn't see the presentation, couldn't hear the presentation. And then we found out that, those 6 people, they could be heard by the speaker, and it was kind of distracting him. So So would
And-
people want that, like that, to see that presentation redone?
And the interesting thing was that the recording that I made, you couldn't hear those people, but you could hear Frank. And it was really what, the uninterrupted portion was really a good presentation. So I think it'd be worthwhile to see it again and hear it. The thing was that there was a whole combination of problems. We had done an update on our Jitsi server, and we had intended to test everything out the day prior, but that fell through the crack because he wasn't able to participate. And we were lazy, and we didn't test it to see if there were going to be any problems. And then again, we may not have found any of the problems because the following Monday, I attended the Jitsi's community call. Every 2 weeks, they have a community call. And they said that there was a combination of errors. They found that Firefox had some bugs that caused problems, and Jitsi itself had a bug that had not been corrected at that point. And the bug was that if you responded to the system too quickly when you came in, it killed your sound, or it killed your video, or both. And the only solution was to exit out of the system, come back in. When the system asked you, do you want to grant access to your microphone and grant access to your camera? If you responded too quickly, it would cause this problem. And the only solution was to log off, log back in, and slowly respond to the request. Count to 5, be patient. But that's the workaround. And as far as I know, the Firefox problems with Jitsi are still not fixed. And matter of fact, the last meeting that I had I prefer to use Jitsi for the Slack meeting and the new Linux user group. And I tell everybody with the instructions, do not use Firefox or any Firefox derived browser until further notice because of these problems. That's long and winded, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to prefer one browser over another, but it doesn't seem right to say we're having a general meeting, but anybody who's using the most popular browser out there is not welcome.
Didn't say that. You're welcome. Just use something else, unless you're evil. If you're evil, if you come in with, at this point, if you come into a Jitsi session with a Firefox browser, it's not too bad. But in the past, if 2 people came in with Firefox browser, it would cause these weird and wonderful magical problems. Other people's browser would die. Other people's sound would die, and they would be fine. Oh, I use Firefox, no problem. But it would kill the other system. And it's all in how the design is different of how Firefox handles the Jitsi transmissions.
But it seems to me that you would not use that social media until they fixed their bug.
That, if you want to start a meeting and do it that way, we'll gladly advertise your meeting, Stanford.
But you gave a perfectly good explanation. That's a perfectly logical explanation that fits all of the random facts that made no sense last month.
That's right, and that's what happened. But I found that Firefox is kind of the lone wolf now. We're developing what they call a monoculture or mono system with the browsers. This Chromium engine that's driving in the rest of the world. If it collapses, then you got everything using it'll break. If there's a bug in it, everything will be broken. It's I don't know. My preference is to use the open source stuff in Firefox. But for even for the meetings, until further notice, I'd prefer people don't use it because it causes problems. and I find it easier to, in my case, running a Jitsi meeting is a lot easier than a Zoom meeting, I think.
Was there not a way to go backwards on your Jitsi version to prior to the introduction of this bug?
I have no clue as to what version we're running on the system. Lee's does all that. And I can't get the version numbers out of the developers. I've asked at their session, what version is the latest and greatest? And they say, oh, just go and look at the code. Well, I don't have access to the code that's been installed on the system.
Stan, we run unstable on Nix.
Oh, okay. But what
Now,
version number?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I can find out in a minute though, but you know, the one of the questions in my mind is there are at least three other options we have.
Yeah.
What is meet.jitsi? Is that stable?
Yeah, I guess, but you still got, and you still have the problem with Firefox
Okay.
over there. And well, I presume by now they may have fixed their problem.
Okay, Jitsi unstable is, well, which one? Oh, hang on a second. Jitsi, G-I-T-S-I. Oh, Jitsi Meet is 2.0.6338-1.
Okay.
Every component is a different version, by the way.
That doesn't surprise me. There's stuff that we don't have installed there that they've been working on, and for a while they quit working on it. And now they say, well, we've kind of gotten back to start to doing that. So it's a big pile of spaghetti, all of it. But it's fun for the developers.
But anyway, next time you go to a meeting, ask which is the best version to use. Unstable, unstable install, stable install, unstable container, or stable container.
Okay. I'm glad this meeting is being recorded because I can't remember what I had for breakfast. And 5 days after that will be the new Linux users group, which is on a Tuesday. And the first Thursday of the month will be the Slack meeting.
All righty. I got a question. It's more of a question than an announcement for how we do things. There was a flock of what do you want to call them? Summits or conferences that went on in the last 3 weeks. The one that really brought it to my attention was the week of the 27th to the 1st. There was the open source summit, and that was Monday through Thursday. Gateway to Innovation. That was a national conference that you had to go to online. Gateway to Innovation is a St. Louis conference that's held every year. That's downtown. I don't think there was even a online version of that. The Linux Security Summit was also that week. And there was another one that the Strange Loop Programming Conference.
Yeah, don't forget Strange Loop.
Yeah. First off, just a general question. Any of those conferences or any other ones that we've had on the calendar, for instance, the Linux Plumbers Conference was the week before that, had some good stuff in it. Has anybody who's here in the meeting tonight been going to any of those? I went to some of the Linux Plumbers meetings. They were good. They were very good. Darn. You would think in the age with online virtual conferences, and most of these had
Bigger, Stan.
Oh, just a cough. Yeah, it just seems like a great opportunity to pick and choose, and if you see a talk you like, be able to drop in if it's in their free list. But the more important question as to how we do things. I got a problem. Lee, if you can bring up the calendar and pull it up on the September month. And then,
Stan's got it up here.
oh, okay. But pull it up to September and bring it so we can see both the month of the 20th and the 27th. And my question to you all here tonight is, if you notice in the month or in the week of the 27th, we listed most of these conferences, the multi-day ones in particular, as at the top of the page. We didn't give the hours of the day, but rather we just showed it as, for instance, the open source summit. You know, we're showing Monday through Thursday at the top of the page. You can click on it for details, but the previous week, the 20th to the 24th, that Linux Plumbers Conference, we didn't list at the top of the page, but rather we listed it every day at its starting time. So it's listed there at 9 a.m. on most of the days. And so you see it in the timeline instead of across the week. Which way do people prefer or find more useful? Show it as a one-time entry at the top of the page where it at the top of the date where it catches your eye, or to embed it in an actual time of day? Anybody have any gut level preferences? Don't all speak up at once.
I prefer at the top of the page.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Anybody want to comment on, do you find it useful to have these conferences listed on our calendar? Okay. All right. And let's see, other odds and ends that were listed on the calendar. There are a couple of neat anniversary dates on there. Let's see, last month or last week. Let me get back. Anyway, it was the 15th anniversary of NANOG being held here in St. Louis, which, what to me, it doesn't seem like it was but 5 years ago. I wouldn't have thought it was 15. But NANOG is the North American Network Operating Group. Basically, it's the people who bring it to make it all work. So it was kind of neat having those collection of minds here in St. Louis. A shame that that was all the way 15 years ago. Dave Forrest, if you're with us tonight, I remember you were there. But sometime maybe we can get some of those people to talk about it. Let's see. The other things I was going to mention as far as dates. Oh, this coming Friday, it's the 65th anniversary of the Fortran language. It's amazing that's been around.
Where is that?
On Friday the 15th is the 65th anniversary.
Okay, Terry.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Okay. I'll let you go. I'll let you go.
I couldn't understand that. Somebody else understand that?
I think it was just somebody talking in the background.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
60 Fortran was introduced. Huh. I thought it was older than that.
Let's see. Well, it says that date is the anniversary of the Fortran reference manual being released. The first compiler didn't come out until 6 months later.
Okay. Yeah, in 56, I definitely was not, I probably didn't know what a computer was.
And although some people laugh it off and say, oh, it's only Fortran, it's not a currently in use programming language, there are still some backbone programs which have under Fortran underlying them that are still in use and still maintained. And
The news item doesn't say who the publisher was. It certainly wasn't O'Reilly.
Yeah. Anyway, the other interesting date on there is the 25th anniversary of the Internet Archive is coming up on the 21st of this month. And I'm looking for somebody who'd like to give a little talk or a little introduction to the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive. Sure be nice to have somebody who could speak to it on its anniversary or thereabouts. So even if somebody just wants to give a short little talk about it. Anyway, with that, general Q&A. So you can ask a question, make a comment about anything. And probably will only get a reaction if it has something to do with computers, IT, open systems. But our first comment tonight will be, actually, I guess it is a question. Randy Carl. Randy, I think you have something for the group.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I've got a couple Spark 10s. I got disk drives and displays, cables, external hard drive enclosures, and probably some CD-ROM drives hooked up to it. And I want to get rid of them. And so I wanted to see if anybody wanted them. Because I hate to take them to go get ground up and shredded into little pieces, whatever. Does anybody want them by chance?
And that kind of hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna feel really awful doing that. But I mean, I played with them earlier this year, but I just
Randy, don't forget to post something up on Discuss asking for.
I did that last year, I think, or the year before, maybe.
Crickets?
Yeah, I was thinking of trying to get a hold of
well, there's a lot of people on that list.
Maybe,
there's
but
a lot
I don't
of people
have
on
his.
There's a lot of people that are on Discuss that are not here tonight. We only have 20 people here tonight.
Yeah, sure. I could post something. I figure I'll hang on to it for a month or two, but I thought I'd give it a shot tonight.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Randy. And
yeah,
but like Stan said, put it on Discuss again. And,
yeah.
and I'm sorry, you and Stan were talking for a moment at the same time. I couldn't understand. You were thinking of calling who?
John Brooks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because he does that missionary stuff down in South America and stuff sometimes, and he takes old equipment.
Yeah.
Use it as a DNS server or something,
Is he still around here?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a few years.
John Brooks or Greg Brooks?
What's that?
John or Greg Brooks?
John Brooks.
Okay.
He was one of the BSD boys. Come on.
Okay.
Yeah, that was John Brooks. Yeah. Yeah. Last time I tried to ding him about 10 years ago, he didn't answer. So I'm assuming his email was dead.
Okay. Yeah, I could try to get a hold of Susan Hurst.
Okay. Yeah, or you might just try putting some up on Craigslist.
Yeah.
And I'll try and get the word to some of the guys who are now Oracle guys who used to be Sun guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want anything for them. I would just be happy somebody took them so they didn't, like I said, get shredded into little pieces of metal.
Yeah.
Go to feed him a good home. Want a good home for him. Just like a puppy.
Susan is on the Discuss list, by the way.
Oh, she is? Okay.
All right. Any other general Q&A questions?
Don't take it to the regrinder. Take it out to EPC.
They won't take it. I don't think they'd take it. I think I've tried that before. Because it's too old. It's a Spark 10. I mean,
yeah.
Well, I mean, they won't take it for operational, but they'll recycle it.
Yeah, but they'll grind it up into little pieces.
They'll charge you $20 too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
they would. No, I think I got some other place I could take it for free, but
McLeod Computer Trading.
you know, it's one of those things you know,
Is WIT still a recycling center in the city?
I don't know. I think maybe they closed.
yeah. I mean, I thought if somebody could actually use them for something, that would be, or play with them, or, you know, somebody wants them, they can send me a chat message or something. So anyway. So you can move on, Gary.
I got a question, Gary. Ken Johnson posted a message on Discuss today, but he said he can't be here tonight. And for some strange reason, he's trying to transfer some large files between a Windows 10 machine and a Linux box. The data transfer from the Linux box to the Windows 10 is about to be expected, about 60 megasecond or something, or 6 megasecond, whatever. But going the other way, it's about 20 times slower. Is anybody aware of any reason why a Windows 10 connection to a Linux box, whether it's SCP or SMB, would be slower than the other way around?
When you say transfer, what protocol?
Well, he tried SCP and SMB.
Yeah. My next thing is going to be the spindles, right? It's the read-write rate of each device.
They're both SSDs.
Yeah.
Three.
Okay.
And following up on that idea, though, is you know, it could be a different spindle speed on the one machine rather than the other. So it might not be operating system. It might be hardware. That's
Yeah, but a factor of 10, Gary, he's seeing better than a factor of 10 speed difference.
Mm.
I don't remember what the numbers were. He posted them on Discuss, but it was pretty speed difference was pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, the numbers didn't look even realistic. 2 in one direction and 110 in the other.
Ooh.
That's 5 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and
something wrong with
I mean, I'm assuming they're both right there on his land, because if they were out on the network, I'd say, well, one's in the cloud and one's not, and yeah, your download speed is faster than your upload speed.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, they're both local. And I asked him about network connections. He said they both show gigabit.
Just to isolate the problem, I'd suggest copying something to null in both directions. You know, just don't actually write it to the disk, send it to the other machine, and just drop it into null.
Ah, good point.
So that we can get a speed test on the network, and if that's different, then we know it's a network problem.
He did
good
say
point.
that the disks, one was an SSD and the other was an NME. So they were both very fast.
Okay.
I really wonder about the measurement on that.
Wouldn't the data just transfer at whatever speed of the slower disk?
Yeah, but both of those disks are faster than the network.
I mean, there's so many different ways to ask this question.
But one could have a store.
Operations a push, or are both operations initiated from the same server? It could be a, you know, you know what I'm saying? It's like when you do an SCP, well, in one case I'm doing an SCP from, and in the other case I'm doing an SCP to, but I'm doing it from the same place to the other place. But if I'm pushing it fast, if I'm pulling it slow, it's like, no, in both cases, I go to the machine that owns it and I tell it to push it to the other machine. You know, there's all kinds of variations there of, yeah, and you got to check all the squares in the box to see where the pattern is. And then, like you said, what if you try different protocols? What if you try FTP, SCP, SFTP, SMB? Like, well, a couple of those are faster than the other ones.
He said he tried SMB and SCP and
Right.
FTP.
And so it sounds like he's always chasing it down to the common denominator is that when Windows is the source or the destination?
Source.
And it's a single file. It's not a bunch of little files.
Correct.
Because the other problem you have when you have a bunch of little files is that each fetch of each little file has to go authenticate the user ID of the file. And now you're interrogating the domain controller. But that's not the case here because it's one single file.
Correct.
Could a
And I'm
hard
really
drive be dying?
Say again, James?
Could one of the hard drives be failing?
Well, I'm putting some comments up for him. I said the first comment was test the transfer using dev null to show raw network data transfer without disk operations entirely. So that would allow him to test either direction without touching the drive. So if there was something, of course, I don't know about reading though.
How do you copy something? I guess you can say SCP and the destination is dev null on the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
That was on LAN, not across the internet, right?
Correct.
But again, I want to know where the command is initiated from.
Well, he tested both ways. But I guess
But he tested it both directions, from and to each machine. But was he initiating the pull from the other machine, or was he pushing from the other machine?
Okay.
And even if he comes back with the answer, what will that test prove? Except that it's the I mean, you're right. Let's say it's the OS. You're right. Let's blame it on the OS. But is it the OS fetching? Is it the OS reading? Is it the OS creating inodes? Is it the OS interrogating the domain controller? You know, what function that the OS is doing during that file transfer is slowing it down.
Yeah.
And especially with that order of magnitude.
Install that Windows subsystem for Linux on the Windows 10 machine and use those tools and see if that makes a difference. They say that's the best feature of Windows 11 is their updates to the Windows subsystem for Linux on the Windows 11.
Yeah, there was an article in was it Slashdot? Somebody had an article about that very thing, about the updates to the Windows subsystem being the best thing about 11. Anyway, unless anybody has any other immediate comments.
Hey, is Windows 10 going to automatically upgrade us to Windows 11? Because
No,
Windows 11 is set to tell everybody that they need a new computer.
Yeah, Tim, tell me about it.
With a couple of orders of magnitude more memory, you know.
Yeah.
No, Steve, I actually saw it today on one of our client machines. That Windows 10 machine was quad core i7 running hyper-threaded with 8 cores, 16 gig of RAM with Windows 10, and the notice said it did not meet the hardware specs.
Yeah.
And the hardware it has was an order of magnitude more than what they want.
We'll pick up on this kind of commentary after the main presentation.
Right.
We're really running late, guys. So we gotta
Thanks, friends. I gotta sign off. Thanks for a good presentation, Lee. And good to see you,
got it.
Gary.
Sorry
And,
to,
good to see you,
sorry to
friends.
lose you, Robert.
Thanks a lot.
Take
Have a
care,
good evening.
Robert.
Okay, let's head on. Our next speaker is Stan Reichardt. I know none of you have ever met or seen Stan before. Yeah, Stan is totally an anonymous, well, maybe not an anonymous coward, but he frequently goes by that name. That's the name of one of his boxes, which frequently is involved in recording the meetings. So, but Stan has been with us for years and years. He's vice president of the group, frequent speaker. And Stan basically does just about everything to keep things running around here. This time he's doing a nice presentation for us on a good tool. So we'll turn it over to Stan. He's going to tell us about Gitso.
Thanks, Gary. Now I got to find the button to turn the thing on. Give me a minute here. La la la, la la la. Okay. Gitso is to support others. Can anybody hear me? Hello.
I hear you, Stan.
Okay. We'll go from there then.
I hear you.
All right. I've got to.
You just gotta give us time to find the on button.
Yeah, that's true. Here we go. It's slide 1. Okay. Welcome to the St. Louis Unix Users Group. This second part of our online meeting is all about Gitso. Gitso is to support others. I'll go to the second slide, introducing myself. My name is Stan Reichardt. Currently the Vice President of SLUUG. I am a co-host at the Slack meeting with Phil Bunch. I currently am the new Linux group chairman. There's additional information about me on this link. We've got a bio. It's up on our webpage. This presentation is being recorded, so later on, if you're interested, you can go there and hit the link. Page 3. This talk is about Gitso. It's a GPL 3+ open source tool. And the whole purpose of this session is to show how Gitso can be used to help others remotely. Afterwards, users that will know that they can be helped with Gitso, and everybody here be aware of it, and it may prompt some of our more skilled and experienced users to configure their routers so that they can help others using Gitso. The goal for me is to get more people to use it for giving or receiving help. Is anybody here? I showed this at the last couple of meetings at the Slack group and the newcomer group. Is anybody else here know? Are they familiar with it? Or is it totally unfamiliar? I'll take that as pretty much crickets.
Yeah. Gary, and your second question, yeah, I've done port forwarding on a router, so I've done that, but not for Gitso. And my only familiarity with the Gitso is what you told me offline and what you told me when I was at the Slack meeting. So that's all my experience.
Well, just as well. This talk is going to be very basic and introductory, and it's I'm going to assume that nobody here knows that much about it other than what they've read so far. The significant point is that anyone that's going to be giving help must do the port forwarding. we'll try to do a little bit of a demonstration a little bit later, depending on time and a few other things. In either case, a recording of this presentation is going to be made available off our main page. Like I said, no prior experience or exposure is going to be assumed here, and it's just going to be about learning. This is more of a roadmap than a rigid checklist kind of thing. And to introduce it to those people that need help, it's to show our viewers that they can use Gitso to receive help and kind of tell them what they have to do on their end to receive the help. And there'll be a little bit of limited guidance to those giving help. The more experienced users, viewers, they have to set up their router to give the help, to make it simple for the people that need help. And after going into that, I'll talk about where to go next beyond Gitso. A little bit of a disclaimer here. I use Linux Mint Mate 20 version distro on my systems. It's a Debian-based system. The differences, they probably don't make that much difference if you can find the application in your repository, whether it's an RPM or so forth. I don't know. I don't run any RPM systems anymore. And my setups might lead to improvements or not. And if you duplicated them, it might be worthwhile or not. In other words, your mileage may vary. And of course, my knowledge doesn't keep up with what's going on in the world, and my skill doesn't keep up. And the only terminology that's of importance is the whole concept of remote desktop software. We've got a link there to an extract from the Wikipedia entry, and the port forwarding thing, which is a little bit beyond what we're going to be doing here later on. My environment is, I got a build it yourself kind of computer with 16 gigs of RAM, and it's an 8664 Android, not Android,
Intel?
No, not Intel, the other one. I guess
AMD.
it is Android. AMD, that's the word. And it's all on a Deb-based software management system. No big deal. A lot of storage, display is kind of good, whatever. On the installation, you can install it from the command line if it's in the repository, and you might check first if you've already got it. You can use which Gitso, and it'll show up. And I use Aptitude to check the repositories to see if the package is up there. There's a couple other ways to check for it. There's apt cache, I think you can use, something like that, but I prefer the Aptitude because it does list the dependencies and so forth. Okay, so as I said, my setup uses deb files, and I always just try to install stuff from the repository if at all possible. It does have two prerequisites, X11 VNC and Xtight VNC viewer, and those are pulled in the manifest of that Debian package. And there's other ways that you can be installed. Of course, you have to have sudo super user privileges, and you can do an apt install Gitso on a Debian system, and it can also be installed with GUI tools. The software manager, which is in this case is the equivalent of a application store, or the package manager. Synaptic is a good choice. There's a thing called gdebi if you find the deb out in the wild someplace else. The source code is all archived up on Google's code.google.com archive place. As far as I know, it works well with the Linux operating system, and supposedly the code will work with Apple's. I don't know. I don't have any experience with that. And supposedly the code can be set up to work with Microsoft Windows. I have no experience with that either. I don't have any of those anymore. So I really don't know anything else about the details of that possibility.
By the way,
There's
just
always 6 points that I like to
Dan?
always cover. And
Dan?
later on at the summary stage, we'll go over did I cover all these points well or not? Okay. Quickly. First point, who? Well, you can ask a lot of who questions, but primarily the big one is who's involved? Well, the one seeking help and the one giving help. That counts as 2 last time I looked. And one of the interesting things is it's one-on-one. There's nobody in the middle, nobody to take your money, nobody to sell your metadata, nobody to spy on you. That's kind of interesting. And what's the scenario here? Well, there's an extract from the definition of it. And I have to say a user seeking help runs Gitso to allow someone giving help to access their PC, their keyboard, their mouse, and screen. So they essentially, it's just like they were sitting there driving the workstation. Both users need to install and run Gitso application software. The one giving help must also configure the router to port forward to Gitso. Question might be, will a firewall block this? Well, either a firewall used by one of the persons seeking help or the one giving help, it's possible. You can get, the nice thing is you can get someone to help you by remotely attaching them to your keyboard, mouse, and screen. There's a lot of technical terms and description of what that does, but that's essentially it. Where? Well, the user seeking the help is at home, okay? And it's point to point across the internet. There's nobody in between. And the person on the other end giving help, he's at home too, a different home. It could be anywhere on the internet. So these 2 people, although they're at home, they could be anywhere. And when would you do that? Well, anytime that they're both awake, I would imagine. The benefits of why is this needed? Well, the helper cannot see what is on the user, the person needing help can't see what's on their screen. Trying to help with email or telephone exchange alone is usually not sufficient, and we desire for a ability to remotely view stuff. The benefit to this is that the user seeking help does not have to set up the port forwarding through the firewall. And this is kind of complicated. The helper can see what the remote user screen, the screen in, and does not have to explain and assist setting up the port forwarding. It's faster to do, and explaining along the way, this is a great teaching opportunity. The bad and the ugly thing is, not well known. Who knew about this? It's been around since 2010 or so, and I just discovered it a couple of months ago and have put it to quite good use. But it's not currently, it doesn't currently have a maintainer, so it could disappear at the drop of somebody's hat. And it does require some additional communication. It's not integrated into the thing, so you might need to talk with the phone while you're doing stuff. And it might be possible to kind of prearrange stuff and do an IRC kind of chat or a terminal typing or something like that. But a telephone would be kind of nice. As to how it's done, well, both the user A and user B install Gitso. The user A, the one giving help, must set up the router to port forward the Gitso stuff. The user A, the person giving, determines and tells what his external IP number is of his router. He has to provide that information. And he giving help, he starts Gitso, and then the person on the other end, the one seeking help, inputs that router IP number into Gitso, and then he's connected to Gitso, and the the person giving help is then connected by Gitso to the user B, the one person seeking the help. I've kind of done a little diagram of how that works. The person on the right is the one person that's giving help. He runs Linux either live or from an installed machine. He determines his external IP number, and he has to set the router port forwarding it to 5500. That's the IP number it uses. Then he reveals the external IP number that he's determined to the person seeking help. He runs Gitso, and he selects the give start support button or the section, and selects the start button. The person that's seeking help, he's running Linux on his machine if he's already got it installed and needs some help with something, or he can actually run it live, from a thumb drive or something, and then since he's running it live, he tests. The purpose of a live demo is distro is to test out your hardware and if things work. And one of the things to test on a laptop in particular is if the Wi-Fi works, or on a home station if the Ethernet is working. So he can actually even from a live distro install Gitso into RAM and start running this thing. He selects the help button. He inputs that IP number from the helper, and he clicks the start button. And I got another slide that is kind of the same thing. And the person B, he sees a little block that says Gitso, and he selects the Get Help section. He puts that IPN number in. The person A giving help, he selects the Give Support number, and they both select the start button, and the thing starts connecting. Now, the person that's going to do the port forwarding, they're setting up the router, he has to determine what his external IP number is. And there's a couple of ways to do that. There's a command line entry here that I just recently ran across. Is curl ipinfo.io at the command line. That'll give you the information. Or you can go to a couple of websites. The one, a real good one, is Steve Gibson's GRC site, the Shields Up entry. When you go through that, it'll give you your local IP number. Or you can run a couple other sites. IP Chicken will give you a number, or even IP Monkey. And those two are really easy to remember. But you get a lot more information for securing your system with the Shields Up section. It's a simple two-step process. Remember, the person giving support first sets up the port forwarding, and he may have to deal with firewall on his end if necessary. Yeah, I got a diagram out of order here on my notes. There's also, I'm missing a slide. Oh, port forwarding is complicated. It's beyond what I can present here. It's too many different interfaces and hardwares, and this is the purview of the more technically experienced people, and that's the person that's going to be setting up the port forwarding on their router so that they can give help. It should be done ahead of time by the person that will be giving the help, and he may have to punch through the router or for the fireware also. This port forwarding is a whole nother subject. Is not covered here, but there's a nice link. It's a generic router guidance site right there that you can go to and get assistance doing that with a number of different routers. There's a site called alternative2.net. If you want to check out that site, it's a good place to find alternatives to all kinds of hardware. The predominantly listed alternative is called TeamViewer, which is a proprietary piece of software. I have used it. It works pretty good, but you got that outfit in the middle, and they have I think they have a limited users, number of users, I think 5 users or something like that. For commercial use, you have to pay them money. There are quite a few more other options listed, but none of them are quite the same functionality as the Gitso. Some of those alternatives are cross-platform. They may work on Android, Apple, or BSD, iPhone, blah, 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 etc. You can check out that site at your own whenever. That site compares and lists more than 100,000 different applications. And about 2 years ago, they only listed like 50 or so, I think. So they've really taken off. Very useful site. Am I still live?
Only you
No,
can answer that, Stan.
No, you're dead, Stan.
That's what I thought.
Don't know, Stan, can't see you. Somebody's talking.
Okay.
Are you memorized?
Covering security. I'm always happy when stuff is GPL3 open source code. I'm happy about that. That means somebody can go and look at it. But just because it's open doesn't guarantee that it's secure. And unfortunately, it's not being maintained right now. But happily, it's still currently available in Debian 11, the Bullseye release that they just came out with. So I'm thinking that it'll wind up in the next couple of releases of Linux Mint and Ubuntu and all those happy related Debian users. I mean, it's still there. It's in the repository, so we can still use it. Users seeking help will have to trust users giving help. Okay, that's part of the security there. But one of the nice things is if I was to give somebody help and they get to a point where they need to plug in the password to get root privileges, I can't see what they typed in as their password. So that's kind of nice to know. And there are no known bugs, conflicts, or vulnerabilities. I went up and checked. Okay, I got a link later in the references of the National Vulnerability site or whatever. But still, what could possibly go wrong? And I thought recently a firewall could block it if it was turned on and the user seeking help had it turned on and didn't realize that it was turned on. A lot of Linux users don't have the firewall. The newer users don't necessarily use a firewall, or they may turn it on thinking just turning on is what they need to do. And by default, it might block, and so you have to deal with that kind of problem. Privacy, as I always say, there isn't any. Or if there is any, you have to work at it, getting it. When you're on the internet, things happen, blah, blah, blah. As I say, what goes on in Las Vegas stays on the internet. I've been to Vegas. I know stuff stays on the internet. Everything you see might be recorded or tracked. Well, I'm doing that right now. Everybody here could be recording this session, besides the fact that we are recording it on purpose.
Yeah.
Anytime you've got a session across the internet, the other guy on the other end could be recording it. And
Well,
so
now
be
I
careful
need to know what Vegas stories you have.
Well, I won't tell you, but if you go look on the internet, you just might find them. What else could possibly go wrong? Well, I don't know. Here's where I list the references. That's that home page for the code. That curl ip.io command line reference for finding your external domain name IP number. GRC Shields Up firewall testing site, the IP Monkey, IP Chicken, and the generic router guidance. And there's the National Vulnerability Database site there. I went there and checked for Gitso, and I think I spent about 2 or 3 hours going through that, or maybe more, going through that site. I didn't find any reference for Gitso, and I searched it every way I could think of. However, since it's not being maintained, I don't know if anybody's putting anything up on their site saying there's a security issue or not. So much for that. Where to go next? Well, if you go to Wikipedia, you can see a comparison list of remote desktop software. It doesn't necessarily list Gitso, but there's a couple other things. I prefer stuff that's tied into OpenSSH and the SSH file system stuff. I use those all the time. I also use Remina and X2Go. I used to use Samba, but I prefer the SSH file system stuff. It works a lot better, a lot easier to configure, and it's not so much a pain. And it works, the results are just the same as using the SSH FS system. As far as I know, Gitso is unique, and no other FOSS free open source software out there does the same kind of thing as well, as simply for the, especially for the new person on the end that needs help. I mean, trying to talk them through how to poke a hole through their router and the firewall is just too much work that they can't handle. In the past, in August of 2019, I did a presentation securing Linux on Linux shares, where I actually demonstrated using the SSH file system stuff. And a link to the slides is on our SLUUG homepage, and it's listed there. You can watch the video. Now, at this point, if appropriate and possible and time allowing, we might try to do some kind of demo of Gitso. Well, as of today, it's not really possible to do that because Zoom, we've tried this and it won't do two things at once, so can't do that. However, I could try to play a video that John Steinmeier set up for the needs help end of the session. Do we have enough time to do that? What time is it? I don't know.
I think we have enough time. It's 29 minutes after 8.
Oh, okay. Well, like I told you earlier, at 8:30, Gary, I start making mistakes on these sessions. So we'll see what I can do here. Let's see what I can do. Let's see here. Here's a little video that John did. I'll see if this will play. Okay, did everybody see and hear that?
There wasn't any, I didn't get any sound out of it, Stan.
Oh, so I heard the sound over it, but essentially it just showed it had you, the sound was you talking and just talking about a simple introduction of Gitso, and you press the button and it came up. Now that was showing from his website, John's site, and what I do on my end is I do the same kind of thing. I click Gitso, and it brings up that box, and instead of saying get help and plugging in the IP number, I give the person seeking help my router external IP number, and I select the give support button, and then I click the start button if it's not already, and bam, it connects. That's it. I didn't see any. Well, I was lazy and I didn't really think about building the other end of the little video. I probably should have, but I ran out of time. I too much wordsmithing on the slides that I had. Anyway,
So with
Going
any
back.
disconnect accept communication, who starts the conversation?
I don't know.
Doesn't the person giving help have to launch their app first so that the other person can connect to it?
I think so. The thing is that until the person giving help clicks that brings up Gitso, the port is open, but there's nothing running. Okay, I've checked that out with the GRC thing. So but it seems like it almost automatically starts the thing, and you almost a couple of times I've had to click the start button, but a lot of times it just automatically starts when you bring the thing up. Beyond that, I really couldn't say for sure. So that's about as much of a demo as I'm going to give right there. So, and I've had to, click back and forth a couple of times. Did you click the button or not? That's a good reason you have to have phone contact, I think.
I may have missed slide number 2. The person who wants help has to go out and download Gitso from somewhere so that he'll have a client app.
Yes, repository.
And the guy
Or, Stan, if I can interject, or the alternative is to have Gitso on a thumb drive, for instance, which you might get from the person who is going to help you.
Well, the thing is, he's got to connect to the internet. So if he can connect to the internet, he can just download it from the repository. Bing. Don't worry about putting it on a thumb drive. It's a little bitty thing. It really is.
And the client means that the person requesting help is probably running Linux, not other operating systems.
I don't know because I don't have any other. I haven't tested it.
I mean, you didn't go to the download site to see if there's other clients that can be downloaded?
There's code up there. I didn't bother reading beyond getting the code for the Linux side. Well, actually, I didn't. I just looked at the web page because the code the package is already in the repository. So I didn't bother. And I don't really.
I need the slide before this one. What's the name of the repository?
It's back on the. It's on the references page. Right there. Right at the
There's
top.
too many links there. Which one am I interested in?
The top one.
Okay.
It says home page.
Stan, if I can interject a thought, Stanford, I did try and find a version for Mac OS, and I didn't finish my search, but that did take me to GitHub, and I found at least 2 entries in GitHub for Gitso. The one, I forget what year it had last been touched. I want to say somewhere in the early 2010s. And I think that was the guy who originated Gitso. And if I remember right, kind of what Stan was just saying, his comment at the end was, okay, I got this working. I don't intend to do anything else to it. If anybody else wants to maintain it, be my guest. Bye. And but he did have, I believe he had a subdirectory for Mac OS, I think. And then there was a second person who did pick it up, started another directory, and I didn't get a chance to follow up on that and see if the stuff they had there actually would work on Mac. So,
well, we moved away from the page that I was looking at, but it's like, well, there's a Linux client, but is the Linux client available in both DEB and RPM format?
I don't remember. There's a tarball I think I got from somewhere that I also fiddled with that a little bit, but I don't know. You're welcome to search the internet. Unfortunately, it's not being maintained, so there's not a, not a lot of people don't know about it. So not a lot of people aren't using it. There's no, I mean, there was a lot of activity when it first came out in 2010. I mean, but for about 6 months, maybe a year or two, whatever, and then it kind of died down. Well, a lot of people, well, they didn't know about it or whatever, or I have no idea what happened. It's kind
So
of
we
hard to
didn't-
sell free software.
And your demo did not go as far in depth as to say what the actual help session will look like. I mean, will I get a border on my screen? Where do I click on to exit when I'm done?
When the helper connects to the person seeking help, he's right there on that other screen, has complete control of the screen, of the mouse, of the keyboard.
Yeah, once he connects, then then he hits connect and he takes his hand off, and all of a sudden his mouse starts moving on its own.
Yeah. Well, you both can fight over it, whatever. But the person seeking help can always break the connection, or whatever. So what else I wanted to say here? I think the Remina and X2Go have similar and better capabilities. Actually, I've used the Remina, I think it was, connecting to my brother's Windows 7 machine a couple of years ago, and because it has add-on modules for dealing with Windows machines. And I think it's got a module for dealing with Apple machines. So from my Linux box, I was actually connected to his Windows 7 box. And that's across the internet, 72 miles away. So that was.
But that meant he had to have a port on his router open so you could connect to his box.
No.
Oh, Remina can
essentially
only
you could think of
one
it.
way. No, I'm talking about Remina. You were saying you connected to your brother's box using Remina, but Remina can only connect one way. So if he had to have a port open, you could connect into.
Yeah, I think I had been up there and opened the port for him.
Yeah.
So, or whatever. Oh, at the time he was, he had a dual boot system, so I connected to the Linux side, and then while I was in the Linux side, I connected to his router and I opened the port number. And I disconnected and then reconnected to the Windows side through the thing, or through the Remina. So anyway, that's other things to look at are besides the Gitso. But the whole point of the whole thing is Gitso is a very handy tool for somebody that has the ability to open a port in their router, knows how to do that. They can run the thing to determine the number, and they can load Gitso on their side, and have the person that doesn't know hardly anything download the Gitso from the repository, and then start it. And you give them the IP number, they plug that in, hit the button, and bam, you're on their system. In the past 6 months, I've connected to a couple of people. Let's see, I helped. I forget who it was. They had a problem with their snapshots, time shift snapshots. I connected to the system through a live Linux session. I think they came up with thumb drive, and I mounted their external time shift thing and got the recovery going there. I believe I think I did a similar kind of thing with Norm Miller. I think it was helped him with actually did a live, helped him with a petitioning portion of installing Linux on a laptop he had. and I've done it with a couple other people remotely. So, and it sure beats driving over to somebody's house. And go ahead.
I've got a question that maybe Lee can answer. Lee and I both had used VNC all by itself. I don't know, it had to be about 7 years ago, Lee, or maybe a little bit longer. So we were both making a lot of use of it back then. And Lee, do you, and I haven't been using VNC much recently. Do you have any gut level immediate reaction? What might be advantageous for Gitso as opposed to just naked raw VNC?
No, because with my application, I had to have a repeater. I set up a repeater in the rack where each person would connect. In other words, the person wanting support would open a VNC server to the repeater with a session ID, and then I could connect with a session ID with a listener to the same repeater and bypass the firewall entirely. The problem with that is Ultra VNC was the only version that would configure for a repeater, and it was never really tested on Windows 10. It didn't work right on Windows 10. So once Windows 10 came out, VNC was, was a dead issue. But there's all kinds of other weird stuff going on. For example, I had to set up a Linux server with RDP for one of our clients. And once I got RDP set up, Remina wouldn't connect to it. I had to use a Windows machine to connect with RDP. So that's why we settled on TeamViewer. For $100 a year, I get 3 users. That can be kind of tricky, but it's out there. And that's the only reliable cross-platform tool that that I have found works 99% of the time. The biggest problem would be with Gitso is that it's no longer supported. If you've got an RPM system, forget it. And it has been updated in 11 years. So, there's nobody that'll tweak it or anything. A couple of people have forked it on GitHub, but haven't seen anything more current. And, so if you're running an RPM based distro, you're really SOL. So if you have a router as a support person where you open the port, it's viable. But the problem is you have to have Linux on both ends. As far as I know, it would not, a deb package is all you've got. So you're limited to Debian derivatives.
Yeah. It almost looks like Microsoft has done everything they could to make it so you can't do cross-platform assistance.
I did, talking about deb packages, forget what the application was this most recent week. And someone said, why don't you just crack open the deb package and install it by yourself? So I think it was that way. I think it was deb to RPM rather than RPM to deb. And you're right. A deb is just a tarball, and you reach inside of it. And so depending upon how complicated Gitso is, if it's just an exe that needs to live in user local bin, then you can take it out of the deb and stick it into wherever you need to on Red Hat.
Well, actually, if you've got the port open on the support person side, you can use VNC. You don't need Gitso.
The advantage to Gitso is for somebody helping a novice that really.
I agree 100%, Stan. The problem is if you got an RPM machine, chances of pulling the components of that deb out of there and getting them working are, 5 or 10%, because what about your dependencies?
Yeah, I understand that.
But no, for your use case, it's perfect. What I'm saying is, for anybody else to play with it, there may be other solutions if you don't have a Debian platform.
that's why the Rebina and the other X2Go are good because you can do the same kind of almost the same kind of thing. It's the port the router issues are where they fall down.
Yeah, but for both of them, you'd have to have the open port on the support end. So person requesting support.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to say that.
Which means everybody you want to support, you got to open the router port. Whereas with Gitso, you use the reverse connection, so the person providing the port is the only one that has to deal with the router.
Right. That's a big advantage. Yeah.
No, it's great if you got the tool that'll work on both ends.
Yeah.
And since I only push Linux Mint, I'm golden.
Yeah. It works perfect for you. But if you don't have Mint or if you don't have a Debian-based distro,
right,
it's a much harder solution.
Mm-hmm. And I think, as you said, Lee, that's where my gut level reaction was, trying to remember with VNC. It was that we had to make the hole in the person needing the assistant. And
right.
Of course, that was the difficult thing to do, because if they need assistance, they probably aren't the one technically up to doing that.
So did we get the 6 points across or not? We forget anything? Did we forget anything? Well, before we get to the total end, I'd like to say the feedback is always welcome. Although if somebody wants to ask a question tomorrow or the day after, go to our mailing list and ask it there. I'd rather not have somebody send something directly to me because I may be asleep till gosh knows when, or I might be out of the office. And there might be somebody else that could answer the question. And even if I did answer the question, I might get it wrong. I try to promote people to ask questions on Discuss. And I'd like to point out our presentation archives. They're on our SLUUG main page. And if this recording is going well, we'll have that posted up there in a day or two. Okay. And this whole presentation, it's Creative Commons shared and licensed, blah, blah, blah. Any other questions? I'm done if there are no other questions.
Good job, Stan. Thank you.
10-minute warning. 10-minute warning. You're going to throw us out of the library. Oh, no. Oh, no.
No, really good. Really good. Well organized and understandable. Cool. And obviously a useful tool.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank you.
Yes, I've helped quite a few people with it. Got one gal, I just can't figure out what the issue is. I think she's got the firewall turned on. So, and kind of hard to tell her over the phone because she's 93. Oh, well.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said, not only do you have to punch a hole in your firewall, but it is using port, what, 5555 or whatever you said. And so if the
5500.
Yeah, and so if the person seeking help has got some kind of firewall installed, you can get stuck there.
No, it bypasses their firewall going out. The problem is that they may have their firewall turned on to the point that it's blocking that coming back in. Although that'd be kind of weird. Oh well.
Well, you got two different things there, Stan. You got the firewall on your machine and the router on your internet connection.
Right.
On the server end, which is the person requesting support, if you don't have Gitso, the port has to be open there. If you have Gitso, it'll support reverse tunnel, so the only port you need open is the person providing support, which is why it works so great. Works great for you in your situation. I wonder.
Stay awake, Gary.
I'm just visualizing that. Yep.
Hi, Dave.
Thank you.
Bye.
See, Ziggy joined us late. Okay. The alarm went off and I mentioned the 10-minute warning. That's just a tradition, reminding people if we ever go back to the libraries, they'll throw us out at 9 o'clock. We don't have to shut down here. Not quite 9 o'clock yet.
Gary,
About another 9 minutes.
I forgot to throw something into the call for help.
Oh, okay.
It isn't really a call for help. It's a lessons learned about over-the-air digital TV this month.
Okay.
There's something new called Next Gen HD TV that's getting rolled out,
Which is a wordy version of just saying ATSC release 3.0.
Yeah, what you said. Now, as a consequence of that, Channel 11 has decided to be the first one to convert. Let me say that again. KPLR, the owners of the KPLR network have decided they're going to be the first ones to convert. So they've taken down their broadcast tower and farmed out their 4 channels to the other towers in St. Louis. So 11.1 is piggybacking on channel 2 signal, 11.2 is piggybacking on channel 4 signal, 11.3 is piggybacking on channel 5 signal, and 11.4 is piggybacking on KDNL 30 signal, or some other permutation of that mapping. And then KPLR will stand up the primary channels of 2.1, 4.1, 5.1, and 30.1 when they get there. But what the wrinkle it caused is that channel 11 disappeared from my converter box, and I didn't feel like scanning the whole entire spectrum to find it. And every time I kept scanning RF26 where it used to be, it said, not found, not found, not found. So I had to one by one go scan the RFs for channel 2, channel 4, so that I wouldn't disrupt channel 9, channel 16, channel 33, channel 45, channel 52, because every time I scan those guys, I lose my favorites.
Yeah. That's interesting. I had not thought of it that way. I just went ahead and did the scan for all, and yeah, I had a couple.
Yeah, and I took the more precision approach.
Yeah.
And found a couple of extra RFs out there. There's about 15 or 16 RFs in North County. I don't. Please, anybody who finds out before I do, please tell me when HD3 comes online.
Wouldn't you have to have an HD3 receiver to tell?
I think you're probably right. I think that I don't know why this was all. I don't know why this happened so soon when there are no HDC3. I don't know why they cleared the 11 broadcast signal when there's, when there's nobody out there to receive. If KPLR is broadcasting in HD3, there ain't nobody out there to receive it. I mean, I think all the way down to everybody who owns a TV is probably going to have to buy a new TV.
Yeah, by the way, there's on one of the boxes I rescanned when they did that, or rescanned it a week or so ago. There are at least 77 subchannels that one of my picked up. Now, of course, 70 of those 77 subchannels are QVC Home Shopping Network.
Yes.
6 of the other 7 are, the religious broadcasting station.
Actually, other than the QVC, I did not find that many duplicates.
You're right. You're right. I guess. Yeah, there were some. There's some good ones out there. There's some.
And if you haven't found it yet, Channel 24 has added a .7 called Me TV Plus.
Yes. Yes. And Newsy Network. It's all news all the time. That's I forget what station number that is, but that got added.
Who did?
Newsy. NEWSY. It's
Okay, I don't know where that is. I didn't find that one.
46.7 or something.
Okay, 46. And then 33, the game show network kind of dropped out. Now I'm assuming it's a temporary outage due to the leaves turning color. So if anybody can tell me where the game show network went, thank you.
Okay.
I mean, does anybody else ever watch 33.1, the game show network?
I never heard of it.
Buzzer, that's the name of it, Buzzer. Because you're right, .2 and .3 and .4 or whatever are just shopping channels.
I think 3 or 4 used to be the Laugh Network. I thought it was still.
Okay.
But yeah, I every now and then I catch a little bit of both.
Well, have you next when we meet next Thursday, confirm that you can still get Buzzer.
Okay. While people are thinking of any other comments they may have on that, another thing which I mentioned about the calendar, I believe it's either November the 2nd or November the 3rd is actually the 50th anniversary of the first Unix release. So a big anniversary date coming up in about 3 weeks.
When you say that, Gary, the very first Unix ever, what?
Click on it, and it was from the Computer Hope website, and the actual verbiage is, let's see, who's got that pulled up? Is that Stan? Did you share your screen with the calendar?
See, 50 years ago is what year? Is that
1971?
No,
1971. And it was on November the 2nd or November the 3rd, I think. And okay, whoever's controlling things there. Yeah, there you go. Looks like November the 3rd, 1971, first Unix release. And the detail says the first edition of Unix is released, and there's a website to go check.
Well, I guess I'll have to do that because I was actually drafting something for my bio this afternoon, and it's like, yeah, when was Unix invented? I mean, because it was in the AT&T laboratory. When you say first released, it's like, released to who?
Yeah, released to who is a good question.
Whenever these websites ask for your birthday, I always put down January 1st of 1970.
Oh, my favorite is January 6th, 1900. Let them choke on that.
Why January 6th?
Because that's my birthday.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I just make myself 60 years older.
I went out to this Computer Hope .com website, and yeah, all it does is say exactly what I copied over. First edition of Unix released, but it doesn't give any details. I have to do our research elsewhere to find details.
Lee, I did that something this week too. I went to download some client like Jitsu or whatever, like Gitso, and it said, "What is your birthday?" We went to confirm your age or whatever. And so I said, I either took my real birthday or January 1st or whatever. And I said, 2021. You know, it said, "I'm sorry, you're not old enough to access this software." So then I hit the back button and tried to put in a, you know, okay, January 2000 or whatever like that. And by that time it had already cached a cookie and I was locked out. It was something really stupid too. It was, and I beat on it from a Linux client and I beat on it from a Windows client. And
why just pick a different browser?
It would let the Windows client in, but it wouldn't let the Linux client in. It was acting real spooky. I was able to defeat it, but it was acting real. And it's like, what do you mean I'm not old enough to down? I don't even remember what it was. It was not something naughty. It was just like, well, we want to confirm that you're an adult. And I think it was a development kit. I think it was a Raspberry Pi development kit or something. And it was like, it was just acting really weird.
Yeah. Well, that's where you need the birthday in 1900.
Right. I tried to make myself younger instead of older. Right. It was either that, or it might have been we're trying to play around with a GPS compass. Put two GPS antennas on the same little sensor, and by the distance apart they are, you can get bearing. Or at least that's what they claim. I haven't succeeded yet, but whatever it was a development kit from somebody that I was trying to develop.
Stanford, just get the one off the shelf I made about 15 years ago.
What, a compass?
Yeah.
What do you mean off the shelf? What shelf do you keep it on?
I don't know. We made one for the radar dome.
Oh. A single GPS or two GPSs?
Hell, I don't remember. It was two antennas on aluminum plate that mounted under the dome. So they were like, 14, 15 inches apart. And when you turn them on, a minute later, they tell you what direction the radome was pointing.
I will check with Carl, because if you did it, then he must know where he squirreled it away. Because we lost that.
Hang on a second. When did we do it?
Wasn't maintained, and nobody knows where it's at.
Well, I mean, I don't remember what the project was at the time, or what the reason was at the time. I just know that they kind of abandoned it.
What did you develop it in? A little C program, or how did you architect?
I have no idea.
Yeah. In this
I don't remember that stuff from 10 years ago. Give me a minute.
I know what you're saying. At least you remember that you did it and you pointed me in the right direction.
Yeah, because I remember what it looked like. He had one of your guys with a water jet make a mounting bracket for it.
In this case, the CPU has moved from stationary to rotating, and I didn't think it would be a good idea to have the two GPS antennas going around in a circle.
No. The antennas were on the base.
Yes, but now the CPU is no longer on the base. The CPU is going around in circles. The CPU is piggyback on the radome,
On the antenna, you mean?
on the antenna. So I blinked twice and I said, oh, stationary Raspberry Pi that converts USB to IP.
Oh. All right, where the hell was it?
You can email it to me tomorrow, whatever.
Yeah, we did it back in 2010.
Okay.
I probably got the code around here somewhere. Yeah, I mean, if like I say, I have no idea what we did.
Yeah. Let me ask a question that may or may not be in your memory. Were the two GPS antennas connected via 232 or USB?
232.
Okay.
Because I had it on the roof down here for 2 months checking drift. Yeah, and I have no idea where the source code went. Because Bill Zimmerly did it. At least that's what he got in the time logs 11 years ago.
Did he write it in fourth?
No, GPC.
Why was that Bill's language? Was fourth Bill's second language?
Yes.
Yeah, or second or third.
He had his own Z fourth.
Yep. Yeah, he made his own.
Wow. Z being Z80 or what? I mean, why Z?
No,
Zimmerly.
Zimmerly.
Okay. Zimmerly.
Z4.
Okay.
Well, the nice thing about fourth is all you have to build is a kernel. Everything else is builds itself on the kernel.
Right. I may have stumbled across that code.
I think it was.
When you say fourth, something comes back to me that when I first got there and they said, here, check this out and see if it works, whatever. I said, wow, this thing's written in fourth.
But that wasn't GPS. It was the daemon was GPS_D.
Okay. I can certainly Google and I can search Redmine for GPS_D and it'll find something.
Yeah, I got some RCPD tar balls, but I actually don't. I don't know why it isn't in our repository.
So again, from your recollection, the two sensors needed to be at least how far apart, and then you got a heading that was within how many degrees?
No recollection.
Okay.
I know it worked because back then they wanted to know, hey, if you threw it up on an antenna, we don't want to have the grunts trying to figure out a compass. You know, they want RCPD to know where true north is.
Yeah. And so but it was a small antenna. They would have been the two antennas would have been 3 feet apart, something like that.
No, it was inside the radome.
Yeah, even smaller, right? An 18-inch radome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they didn't have the big ones back then.
And you got it. Oh, that's great. I mean, you got it working, and with that kind of, because what I'm kind of finding out is if the two antennas are too close together, you don't get a good heading.
Well, we actually had a chap over in England prove that it was acceptable. It was good enough.
Okay.
And like I say, I don't remember all of the details at this point because it was 12 years ago.
No, I don't remember what I was doing 12 years ago. Looking for work, I guess.
But I'm kind of surprised it's not in our source code archive.
In Omnitech source code archives.
Yeah.
I'll look tomorrow.
Jumping
well-
back to the ATSC3 conversation, TechHive claims that the FCC mandates that any ATSC3 must be simulcast on ATSC1 as well until February of 2023. And after that, I guess, unless they extend that mandate, you could have some stations who decide to discontinue their old ATSC1 signal. But until then, you can expect for the next 2 years, you're going to see
A lot of this disruption.
yeah.
They always pick February for some reason. Well, that's not, so we only got about a year left then. We got 14 months left. 15.
Yeah. And my guess is that any TV currently being sold that's advertised as a 4K capable television is probably already got the ATSC3 receiver in it.
Well, you can guess that. I'm just disappointed that my converter box fried about 2 months ago and I had to go buy a new one. And I don't think the new one is HD3 capable.
There are some converter boxes that are 3 capable. Let's see if I can find.
Well, the boys at Best Buy did not try to sell me, did not try to get me, did not try to steer me into an upgrade.
Shame on them.
In fact, it was worse than that. I mean, it's on my own fault. I was looking for the exact same brand name. I mean, I had an Alcatel for a year or for 18 months or something, and it just burned itself out. And so I wanted a brand new Alcatel because I liked the way it was, but they didn't have them on the shelf. So I took a couple others home and tried them out and didn't like them and said, order me an Alcatel. And the first one, and then it was a comedy of errors. Then they found what the first one they found on the shelf they sent me home with, it was broken. So then I tried a couple of other brand names that I didn't like. And then I said, go order me an Alcatel. And it came in and that's what I'm using.
Let's see, per Crutchfield, ATSC converter, 3.0 converter boxes, one called Zapper Box, and there's another one called HD Home Run Connect 4K. So as of February of 2021, 6 months ago, those were 2 brand names for 3.0 converter.
No one will know the answer to this, not even the brilliant Phil Bunch. But if we go to 4K or whatever, then right now you can get about 7 dot channels in 1.6 megahertz bandwidth. If you go to 4K, you won't be able to get that many.
While Phil's thinking about that, hopefully, I know part of what happened in the transition, or the difference between the 3 and the 1 and the 3 standard. Part of the difference is the 3 standard uses orthogonal encoding, and yes, I've been one of the people who, ever since they came out with the ATSC1. I have been bitching that the encoding that they selected sucks. It is much dirtier than the old style television, and I swear it was chosen by the people who sold cable television as an attempt to sabotage broadcast TV.
Okay.
So the orthogonal signal is less susceptible to reflections, and so you won't get those kind of pixelated screens. Hopefully you won't get the drop sound like you do
Yeah, I mean, I hope I understand what you're saying. Is you're right. This new signal, it's an all or nothing signal. You either have above 50% and you have quality, or you have below 50% or 43% or whatever, and you have pixelation. At least in the old analog days, you got snow and you could still see what was going on.
Yeah.
Or sometimes my YouTube player on the internet will drop from 720 to 480 to 240. You know, it'll just downshift to the next level of graininess.
Well, the problem there is you're running DSL. You know, DSL does not give you a stable bandwidth.
On my YouTube, you're saying, on my internet?
Yeah, on the internet.
I mean, I'm running, what's it called? It's AT&T, and it is their Uverse, but you're right. It's probably, and it is fiber, but it's still probably DSL.
Fiber?
Yeah, it's slow. I agree that I only have 6 megabits coming into the house, but they switched me from a copper to a fiber. I mean, it's copper from inside, you know, from the telephone pole to my house, but from the road to my telephone pole, it's fiber now.
Well, I guess that's what you get for whatever price they're giving you.
Right.
Because I had to get fiber in the office here last year because the copper went away that we were using. And right now I've got 50 meg, and I guarantee it's a lot more, but we have a dedicated fiber pair from here to the CO, and there's 20 fiber pair in the cable.
But it would be nice if this new HD3 would do that, would downshift instead of pixelating.
Since you're broadcasting HD3, how would it downshift? Are you saying your receiver?
Contrary to popular belief, I am not an electrical engineer. I am a computer scientist. I only play the part of an electrical engineer at work.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, if a signal is being broadcast in HDMI 3, that's all you got. And your receiver is the one that has to take HDMI 3 and downsample.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. The difference between analog and digital is it's like UDP and TCP, you know, it's like, well, you either acknowledge every packet, or you just drop the ones on the floor that you don't understand. And it's like, well, what happens? And you can either, I guess the thing would be, it depends how you encode the packets, right? If you encode every third dot and then send all the, you know, or send all the odd dots, every other dot, send all the odd dots and send all the even dots. Well, then if you start dropping every other packet, then you've still got all the even dots.
Yep. And like I say, the signal, if the signal is broadcast as HDMI 3, it's probably just HDMI 3. So it depends on your receiver to figure out what to do with it. It either drops pixels or it's smart enough to downsample.
Well, for one thing, this orthogonal encoding is supposed to be an improved encoding method. So hopefully that will stop some of the dropping. The other thing that I just didn't understand when we were arguing about ATSC1 was, sound is cheap compared to video.
Yeah.
So why not put in 1 or 2 backup packets for the sound signal, and so that you don't have dropped sound. I mean, the sound, it's more annoying than the video when all of a sudden you get dropped words or in the middle of the broadcast.
I agree with you. I mean, because even in the days of snow, the sound never got muddy, just the picture got snowy.
Exactly.
And I don't know how they did that. I don't know how they kept the sound pure.
Because the sound was much lower bandwidth requirement. So as long as you were centered on that channel, you could decode it. You could receive
is that
it.
what it was? Was the sound in the center of the channel and the video was on the outsides? Is that
no, they were completely different frequency. I mean, the sound was actually you know, a separate signal.
Well, it was a separate signal because I mean, I was just studying this when I went hopping for channel 9 RF 26 last week. The classic example is FM 88 down at the left end of the dial. That totally collides with old TV channel number 6.
Yep.
You could pick up the audio for channel 6 on FM 88.
Yep.
You're right. It was a separate, and I think it was, so I think it was higher. I think FM 85, 82345 was the video, and FM 86 was the audio.
Yep. And it was possible with the old television to, you know, you would occasionally, you know, get bad sound quality or bad, you know, it may even stop. But the thing is, it was a lot less likely than it was that, you know, than just getting snow on the screen. And yeah, back to your point, Lee, my argument back then was that, you know, rather than having a screen just hang and go frozen, I always said there should be an option that you, the customer, the user of the screen, should be able to set it and say, okay, do I want an absolutely perfect picture all the time? Fine, then set it so that, yes, if you're not getting every last damn pixel, freeze the screen. Sure, but I'm betting that most customers would just as soon have a little bit of snow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's all the encoding schemes, right? Because somebody figured out that for movies or whatever, you only have to broadcast the pixels that have changed.
Yeah.
Rather than sending all the entire frame every time around, you only have to send the people's lips that are moving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, while there's a break here in the action, can I throw something in?
Sure, please do.
If there's anybody who's interested in a electronic book, a Kindle, Best Buy has them on sale, $35 off on the Kindle white page right now. My book's dying, so I had to go buy a new one, and they're normally $140. But right now, this week, you can get them for $95, and you may not be able to get it at the store, but they'll ship it to you, no charge. So if you're one of these guys who uses an electronic book and yours is getting a little bit threadbare, I think it's the gal that was there told me it's only this week.
Oh wow!
That the Paperwhite.
Paperwhite.
Yeah, they may do Paperwhite good, but the user interface is just like Apple nowadays, and it sucks.
Well, if you want an electronic book and want to carry stuff around, you haven't got a whole lot of choices.
Any 7-inch Samsung tablet will do that. You don't need a Kindle. When I had to get a new one 5 years ago, I ordered a new Kindle, and the UI was worthless. It was just like a Apple device. You know, you couldn't even put icons on different pages. They would fill one page and then flow to the next, which was so dumb. I sent it back, and then I realized that I had gotten my wife a 7 or 8-inch Samsung tablet. So I just, she said, I don't use it, grab that. I put the library app on there and the Kindle app and do everything on that. You can't on the Kindle except for the fancy Paperwhite or, the non-color screen. You always got an active screen. But the exact same functionality, and the only difference is it's a normal screen instead of the one that gives you the fancy black on white, which might be a little bit easier to read out in sunlight.
Well, actually, what I wanted it mostly for is maybe some books I want to read and download, but a lot of things I'd like to load the PDFs down, carry it, and just so I can got something easier to carry around if I want to read it.
Yeah, it works fine. I put my own cloud client on there and sync it, do whatever I want.
What do they cost?
I got that one for $50.
Hmm.
Dimensions,
Same.
7-inch.
Yeah. But actually, I got a 10-inch Samsung that I picked up from a project that died, and it was a high-end box. It does, you know, it has better power. It was like $300 or something like that. But if you get a standard Android tablet, it does everything the Kindle does except the fancy. I forget what it is, but it's like the black on nothing that will give you better readability in pure sunlight. It's the only thing the Kindle gives you that a regular tablet doesn't.
And so that standard Samsung tablet is about, what'd you say, 60, 70 bucks for 7 inches.
Right. Or you can probably get a better deal. And like I say, it's been 10 years since I bought it. But
Can you buy, can you get an enhancement attached keyboard, or is it, no, you're going to be typing on the screen?
no, it's standard Android.
Bluetooth.
I don't remember if that one does Bluetooth, but I know the 10-inch does.
Yeah, because I was going to, a couple months ago, I mentioned that I went into EPC and tried to look at a Yogi or whatever that would, a laptop that would bend over backwards to turn itself into a tablet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of gave up on that. So maybe this is what I want. Maybe I want this Samsung Android with a Bluetooth keyboard.
I'd say try the 10-inch first, because I have very little problems with the keyboard. The biggest issue with the keyboard for me is a standard layout. I hate Apple keyboards. I have to go ponder on there for 5 minutes to find a semicolon. But the Android has a standard keyboard and it works fine.
Well, I love standard keyboards. I didn't realize that Apple had moved everything around.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, they have to. So once you get used to it, you don't want to buy anything else. But no, what I was saying, Stanford, is instead of looking for 7-inch, go try a 10-inch. And I found the keyboard on that to be mostly usable.
And the keyboard, the keyboard is just on the display. It's just a touchscreen keyboard.
The keyboard on the display on a 10-inch is large enough that I can use it with 2 thumbs.
Okay. Use it with what? Two thumbs?
Yeah. No, it's like two finger hunt and pecker on a keyboard.
Oh, okay. Like you do with your thumb on the cell phone. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the keyboard's big enough that it's useful for basic email and stuff like that. Of course, you're not going to write a 100-page document on it. For that, you want a full-size keyboard so you can touch type.
Yeah, I mean that is the question. Why do I want this device? Oh, because it's just something I don't have. And you're right. So get one that's got an on-screen keyboard. Go ahead and buy yourself a Bluetooth full size. Get a trackball instead of a mouse so you can set it in your lap. Yeah, the whole works.
But that defeats the whole purpose of having a tablet.
Except that then you can disconnect all that junk and just use it as a tablet.
Then why not have a computer on the desk with that set up for what you want? If you have to leave all the big stuff at home when you leave, it doesn't do you any good.
I mean, I can't think of a specific use case of why because I was over at my cousin's house and I needed to whatever, but I mean, everybody's got a unique case where it's like, well, at home, I just want one. I don't want to have multiple. And the answer to this is rsync. I don't want to have multiple copies of all my data in multiple places. I want one computer, but I want
you don't want rsync. OwnCloud is the only solution.
Okay, or whatever. But I mean, it's like I want one computer that's got a useful keyboard when I'm at my desk, but I can pick up and take on the road with me when I'm ready to go.
Yeah. And then I've got a couple different login OwnClouds. One I use on the phone, which is very limited, so I don't accidentally download 3 gig of data to it. And the tablet, I go either way. And I keep all my stuff in OwnCloud here for the last 10 years. So if I'm traveling, I sit down at a browser and I can download anything I need.
And the 10-inch will be about what, 150 or 300?
It depends on how much horsepower you want.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think I'm gonna bail, guys.
Sounds like we're running out of stuff to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so
Stan-
next, I didn't
Stan-
look, Gary. What is next Thursday's topic?
Let's see.
To
Stand
be
by.
announced tomorrow.
I probably won't know till tomorrow, but stand by, and I may have at least a partial answer here. Got to get my.
Yeah, Stan, I made you host, so I'll catch you later.
Thank you, Lee.
Staying awake.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye, Lee.
Bye, Lee. Whoops, he's gone. Hmm.
Well, Gary, did you listen to Captain Kirk's welcome home speech today, or what?
Yes, I did.
I did not. What did he say?
It's
a great honor and privilege to be asked to perform this mission for all humankind.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I mean, he got choked up, and
First of all, I haven't seen him live in years. Is he any more intelligible than Mike Shannon?
Yes, yeah, he was more intelligible. I don't know, he enunciates correctly, and he speaks with a full voice. He does seem to speak more slowly than he used to, like he's coming up with the next thought. So hey, at 90, hopefully I'm that good a shape. So but yeah, he mostly in his they did that immediate talk with him, like not even 5 minutes after they pulled him out of the capsule.
Right.
I mean, it was very fresh, and at that point he basically was making very emotional comments like, yeah, you look down and there's blue, and you look up and it's black like death. Does this mean this is where I'm going? Because at my age, I'm going to die soon, and so am I looking at death right now? And that's almost literally what he said. And so, I mean, he was very emotionally affected by the experience.
See what happens when you let actors speak without giving them a script to read from?
That's probably true. Yeah.
Of course, I don't know what you mean by the fact that he was speaking slower. Because he has always punctuated his statements with blank space.
Uh-huh.
George Schilling died. I don't know if you guys remember him. He was the guy that wrote CD Record.
Oh, no.
He was well known for Flame Fests. He got into a spat with the Debian guys or whatever about it. So they ended up more or less getting rid of CD Record and come up with their own. I forgot what they called it now. But apparently he was hard to get along with, but apparently he was a real good programmer.
Oh, wow.
He wrote his own version of Tar.
Oh, wow.
I think it was called Star, S-T-A-R.
And his name was
Schilling,
Schilling. First name?
J-O-R-G.
Oh, Jorge.
There you go.
That's interesting. Schilling's about as German as they come, and I don't think Jorge is.
One last dip in the ocean.
Getting crosstalk on the line.
Somebody's having more fun than the rest of us. I didn't know we had any participants who were at the ocean right now. Cool. And Stanford, in answer to your question, I just checked, and yes, we can now discount that we will not be having Frank Seiler doing the repeat on Thursday because he just emailed me that he's got another commitment, so he can't do it.
So we are open for
Yes.
open for suggestions again.
Yes. So Stanford, what will you be doing Thursday night?
Next Thursday night, I think I'll be yeah, that's it. Yeah, all right.
If you suddenly get an urge, you know where you can email me. Yes, we can still do this. But I'll come up with something hopefully tomorrow. And
maybe I'll be giving a presentation on GPS compass.
hey, there you go.
We need to say goodnight, but I downloaded their software development kit and then try to figure out how to use it. And just reading the source code where there isn't, because it didn't come with documentation. So they read the GPS and they carry all of the lat longs around in decimal degrees. And then they provide this subroutine that they don't call, says compute range and bearing. And you pass it 2 lat long triplets and you get back a range and bearing doublet. So I passed it the 2 lat long triplets that I got from the device, and I got back a really screwy range and bearing. Because the doggone converter function thinks in radians.
Oh.
I mean, not rocket science, but it's like, come on, guys, why would you deliver a subroutine to compare 2 lat longs and make it use different units than the units you're carrying around in the entire rest of your program?
Okay.
Make the stupid converter routine convert to units.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we're half an hour over and we've lost everybody not everybody of importance. Why do I only have 4 icons? No, there they are.
Yeah.
There's all the missing icons. Stan, I can see the toothpicks in your eyes. We lost Rich a long time ago. And you're going to lose me right now. I'll see you next week.
All righty. Well, thank you for all of the good thoughts and information. And we'll see you next week then.
Okay.
Take care, Stanford. I think I'll pull the plug too.
Thank you, Phil.
You guys take care.
All righty.
I think I saw most of the meeting. Oh, sleep.
I don't think I heard. Oh, no, we are still recording, I guess. Okay. So
I don't know.
yeah, it says we're still recording. So
okay. Oh yeah, the thing is lit in the corner, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think I too will travel on.
And I think also me. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Yep. Take care. I think I'm going to.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Steve.
Go pass out. Take care, guys.
Carrie, I think you're probably the I think it's down to just you, me, and Stan, Carrie. So as I say, I think I'm about ready to drop off. So if you have any parting words.
Just goodbye. Thanks for letting me listen in.
Hey, well, thanks for joining us. And hopefully we can see you in the future, like next Thursday for the LUUG meeting, or next month, or any of the other meetings. So cool.
Yeah, I was looking forward to the talks about Unix, but it's not.
Well, we've debated. You know, it's just kind of historic that we call the Thursday meeting, the LUG meeting, and this one, the Unix meeting. But yeah, sometimes it's not Linux specific and kind of applies to Unix as well. So, or actually, I always am the one who points out that Linux is just a variation of Unix. So, but
Well,
go on, I'm listening.
it's an imitation Unix.
I'm sorry, the same with what?
It's an imitation.
Oh, well, let's see. Let's see. I guess as long as it hits POSIX standards, though, it's, I guess the name Unix is not defined anymore. Yeah. That's pretty close. You're right, though. There are some reasons why the other ones are different. So.
Excuse me, Carrie, does the Chicago area have any meetings like this we could attend?
At this point, there is one that maybe is close to this. The other. Well, no, there is one. There's one that is. They don't meet on a regular basis. They have, every few months they meet an hour at a time. Which is actually is a Nix group, Unix and Linux. But I didn't go there when they were in live days because it's an hour and a half away each way. And they move further. They have been going somewhere and then they move further away. So it was just like, nah, that's too far. But then there are the other group. There's another group. The other groups are all strictly Linux, and one of them is done. The leader does a presentation every month, which is when she's not caught in work, which is nice, but it's only what she can do. Nobody else makes a presentation as far as I know. The other groups don't have a presentation at all anymore. I mean, or they just people sit around and talk about possibly about computers and most about non-computers.
Oh, thank you.
And we had those comments a few times that it'd be nice to. We used to have an active BSD SIG here, and but that's kind of no longer active. We never formally dissolved it. It just kind of got into less and less use. And I don't know what your feelings are, whether Mac OS, all there.
I don't like Apple, so I don't know about Mac OS. I got my start in I worked in mainframes, and then Solaris servers up until around 2001, 2002 when we got laid off. And so I've been out. I've done. I've used. I mean, I started with PCs at home. My first programming was in '65 at school. We had access to a computer there. But then my favorite computer was my Radio Shack, TX80. So I got out every month. I got out soldering and I attacked it and made some change to it. I had 64K memory inside the keyboard.
Oh wow!
So I used the extra 16K as a printer buffer. That's back in the days of dot matrix printers, of course, where you sit there and you wait forever for something to print. I didn't. Load the printer buffer, and I keep on working on other stuff. But yeah, I programmed them in hex. So I just it was similar to do that. Never had an assembler before. I did assembler on mainframes. Then I got into Linux on my home computer, and that's
Well, the reason why I mentioned Apple is yeah, certainly there's, I mean, Apple does go out of its way to lock you in and make some things, just non-open standards. But at the same time,
that's why that's why I don't like Apple.
yeah. But at the same time, it is BSD under the under the covers, and yeah, you can open up a terminal window, and the GUI isn't Unix friendly. But
I've heard rumors that they're going to do a tremendous change underneath the covers in Apple coming up. I don't know what that means.
Well, the big change is the Macs are getting rid of Intel as their processor.
I know. Well, yes, I've heard that it's going to go way beyond that. They're going to, I don't know, Plan 9. Who knows?
Well, to accommodate that, you've got to change the internals of Mac OS to. And what it is the M1 chip, which is in the new Macs, is the same type of silicon architecture that's already in the iPhone and the iPads. So the operating system for the Mac, even though they may still call it Mac OS, iOS, the operating system for the phones and the iPads, started off as a fork off of Mac OS, and now the fork is going to come back together. The Macs are going to be running the same operating system as the phones and the pads, which will make it all kind of work together.
Okay, guys, it's getting awful late for me.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for coming, Carrie. Hopefully you're on our mailing list, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for letting me come. Yeah, I hope to come again.
Great. Thanks. Bye. Thank you, Stan. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Get some sleep.
I'm gonna shut the recording down here real soon if I can find the button. Button. Who's got the button?
This is